don't ever smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some ditties. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to run. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome, guys. That's right, Miss Liz is back, and you know how this works. We have an incredible guest in the house. Pat Blackmore is here, and we're going to share about her books and all of that good stuff. And we got some amazing questions that we're going to get out on the floor. But before we get all that started, we're going to get you over to Miss Liz's platform on the YouTube channel, Miss Liz's Teatimes, and give that a little subscribe, because there are incredible tea times on there that are not for Miss Liz, but for all of you guys to enjoy. Each tea time makes a difference, and each tea time that is shared opens a new door and opportunity for my guests. So I really want to thank everybody for that. I want to thank all of my listeners that are tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all those good platforms. Thank you for all that support as well. So before we get started, we're going to do a disclaimer. We're going to do a beautiful intro to Pat, and then we're going to spill some tea together. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's live tea time shows. Miss Liz's Teatime is a global platform dedicated to sharing real-life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I, Miss Liz, is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith and health. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experience and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or decisions that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including, but not limited to, trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotional triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or visit my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. Miss Liz, myself, is welcoming you to join the conversations with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect those wishes and decisions and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. I'm going to grab Pat's introduction here, so let me give you a little bit on my guest. Joining today on Tea Time is Pat Blackmore, an award-winning author, speaker, and clinical psychologist. Pat is the co-author of the historical fiction masterpiece, All the Broken Angels, written with Steve Hardiman and published by Green Gato Press. With decades of experience working as a clinical psychologist, specializing in Vietnam veterans, Pat weaves her deep understanding of human resilience, compassion, and the struggles of a generation into every page. She's also the author of the children's book, The Crystal Bead Laka's Journey, a moving story of a hidden child of the Holocaust. And her short stories have been featured in literature, anthologies, and online journals around the world. Her work, whether in literature, speaking engagement, or workshops, embodies themes of compassion, inclusion, and diversity. From her background in theater as a director and producer to her insights national presentations on writing and marketing, Pat brings a creative and inspiring voice to every platform. Join me as I welcome Pat Blackgord to Tea Time. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be
I,
here.
I told you it'd be a few minutes, right? I just like to really get it out
Oh,
there to my listeners on who my guests are and why they come to my platform.
well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, Pat, I'm going to take you back a little bit. So, who was Pat as a little girl and who is Pat now?
Oh boy. A lot of that actually comes out in All the Broken Angels because the little girl in that book is based after me. So I think that as a little girl, I was I was shy growing up. I was, grew up in the 1950s. You sort of, you know, you're seen but not necessarily heard, and I think I lived up to that. But I had I think a fantasy world in my background. I loved watching old movies, so I was at home very theatrical. And I'd put on my own scenes, and I even watched some of the old 8 millimeter movies that we still have from them, from and I would find myself just being out there and just dancing or doing death scenes or just making up something. And I thought, oh my God, how did that mix with the shiny? Because it was such a contradiction. I couldn't become that person for quite some time. That couldn't come out of me, probably until close to college years. I was too shy. So it took a long time. It took a long time for everything that was bubbling up inside to come out and to find my voice. And it was at the time when women in the early 70s were just starting to find their voice as well. So the timing was good for that.
When you said that, I seen not heard, that's how I felt growing up, and that's why I love to have guests like you on my platform because we need to be seen and heard. It's not look at me kind of attitude. It's we all have a story and we all matter, right? So we bring our ways of being heard in different ways. And you brought it in writing and you just shared dancing and movies, the old. So I'm going to take you back a little bit. We're going to get into the book, but I want, because you mentioned the old movies, what was your favorite movie back then?
Oh, I think everything from like It's a Wonderful Life, the Frank Capra movies. I was always very intrigued with his work, because it was about hope. It was about inspiration. It was about hard times and people working through adversity and moving and developing that resilience to move forward. And I just love Frank Capra. I remember even reading his book and about himself, where he grew up as an immigrant and made his way through be directing some of the most famous movies of several generations. I would love. Uh, there's a book that I think inspired a movie that inspired me as a writer. It's called His Girl Friday. And I'm trying to think of the two people that were in it. It might have been Rosalind Russell, and I don't think it was Cary Grant, but it was fast paced and witty. It took place in a newspaper room, and you had a woman journalist in the 1940s, 50s, maybe. And the style and the writing style and the wit and intelligence and the way they talked, when I moved into playwriting world, I think I incorporated that. So that's always in the back of my mind as being one of my favorites there as well.
Well,
So it was really the old black and white movies.
yeah, I love Blondie and Dagwood. My dad would get me up in the middle of the night and then tell me to go back to bed and get ready for school, right? But it would come on like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, it was all those black and white films, Leave It to Beaver and stuff like that. And then there was a
Hmm.
Debbie Reynolds, that the musicals, lots of musicals. And Tammy Loves the Doctor, a lot of those movies.
Oh,
So I
Mhm.
just felt like my Oma
Mhm.
was tapping me on the shoulder and saying, no, we need to take Pat down a different route and we need to find out where the adversity came from. And it comes from your childhood because you said like you didn't feel seen and heard. And then the movies that you were drawn to were the ones for adversity. And then you ended up writing about adversity and overcoming challenges and that. You see, that's where the past, the present, and the future comes in. That's how Miss Liz gets these teas out there, right? Is Oma's in the back and
I
she's
never
tapping and
thought of it
she's
through
like,
yeah, I love
yeah,
it. I never thought about it through the movies, but the movies were a big inspiration for me. They really, really were. Yeah, I think
yeah.
they really helped me find my voice.
So, Pat, we had some questions that came in. First question that came in was, Pat, what inspired you to co-write all of the Broken Angels and bring Kate and Albie story to life?
Mhm. Well, Kate's based on me, and Albie is based
Oh,
on my cousin Albie. So it is semi-autobiographical, and I grew up during the 1950s, and the story moves through the 1970s and what it was like during that time where we had such a cultural revolution. So much was happening. Women's voices were just being heard at that time. We had civil rights people were starting to speak up. And so I felt like I wanted to capture that era, that time period in my life, family's life. And also because I'm a psychologist and work with veterans, Albie was a Vietnam veteran. And I felt like I had to have veterans' voices heard as well. So all of that combination of sort of coming of age during a time where we went from the black and white world of TV where things just sort of stayed and kind of reserved and everything to like Walt Disney's wonderful world of color, and in the 60s just things just blossomed. And what did that do to our society? What did that do to our culture at the time? So I wanted to explore that using semi-autobiography, using me in there, but bringing in a full cast of characters to just represent everything that happened at that time. And I picked up an author, a co-author. Actually, we were in a writing group together. And when I was writing it, I saw there's a lot written about the younger years. Kate and Albie grow up together. They were as close as can be. And I saw those younger years. It was laid out. And I asked Steve to help me with something because he was also an excellent writer. And I wanted to get a just a description of a synopsis of the book. And we sat down and we met. And all of a sudden, I'm like, through that talk, I discovered the whole other adult story. And I went, this is where I have to take this book. And somehow it fell into a collaborative effort. And we thought the same way. You know, we had similar interests, and he was able to incorporate my writing style. He was able to join me and meet me, which was really cool because I had a lot of the story already written about younger years. So we somehow found each other and just made that mesh, which isn't easy to do. It's not easy to have share that with someone, especially when somebody's coming into a project as opposed to starting it together. He had that ability to match where I was and move into my world. Not an easy task.
so how did you get the title?
Okay, that's really interesting. Oh boy, there's a whole bunch of stories about this, but the title was really interesting. In the book, Kate has a guardian angel, a little figurine that's a guardian angel, was given to her by her mother, right? Because they learned it was she was in Catholic school, and guardian angels, when we learned in Catholic schools, protect us. And they were always there for us. And there was a picture in our catechism book of two children walking across a bridge and a guardian angel protecting them. Except the fact that in real life, people weren't always protected, and her best friend got polio. So she got upset, and every time she got mad, she would throw the angel across the room, and it would break a wing. So I figured all of us. I looked at life, and I thought, we're all a bit broken, and as all broken, but we can put ourselves back together. We can learn, and we can still fly. So it represents all those characters in the book who, in their own way, have their own wounds, both physical, mental, emotional, and yet we can still grow from that and mend those wings and continue our journey.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Like, you know, we all have a broken
Oh,
part of
thank you.
us, right? We all have scars. We all have a story. You know, uh, and sometimes we're scared to share those broken wings because of society or shame
Yes,
or guilt, or you know, or we don't want to hurt others by sharing that truth, right? So the angel kind of stays hidden until we're able to fly broken, if that makes sense.
yes, yes. Yes, and what's really interesting to top that off, I years in, and this is only a couple of years back, I met a soldier who knew my cousin Albie and who wrote a book about him. And you're not going to believe this. You know what the title of the book was? Angel on My Shoulder. Tell me how that happened. Tell me, I don't know.
That's the
So
universe.
yes,
Like I said before we went live, right? The universe brings people into our
yes,
lives, and we're like, how did you find us? Like, what
yes.
are we supposed to do together? Like, oh, we're supposed to work together. We're supposed to collaborate. You know, or we're supposed to just be in each other's lives for a
Mhm.
season and then move on. You know, a lot of times I have people that come into my life, like you, Pat, and through other sources, but then we end up having a connection that takes us on to a different direction, and a different opportunity in the future. You know, like today we're having this interview, we're sitting and having tea together, but who knows what next week might lead, or next year might lead, or you know, um, I
Exactly.
what really drew me to your story is the Holocaust.
Oh.
My Oma is a survivor of the Holocaust as well, so it
Mm.
it really resonates with my heart, right? And in today's world, how do you feel about what's going on in today's world, Pat? Do you feel that
It's a
it's
struggle.
going to be a
That was my it's really scary. When I wrote that, I wrote it initially as a short story, way back a long time ago, because I heard it from a rabbi friend of mine, and over the past few years, I turned it into being a children's book because I felt like more and more a voice needed to be heard for these children and for what was going on in that world, you know, in the world. And my fear more so about the fact that we have started to dismiss parts of our history. We have started to say this didn't happen. We're starting to say this wasn't true. The Holocaust didn't happen. So one of the things that I felt was really important when writing that book was to find an illustrator who had some connection to the Holocaust. And believe it or not, just flipping through Instagram, I found Katja Roy's, whose grandfather was a Holocaust survivor and who had been waiting in her life to find a something that she could do to be able to write about the Holocaust or design something. And so I found her. This is a real person, a third generation survivor. And I also included her grandfather in the book to tell his story in the afterward part. He was still alive then, and I could add then the real stories because we think that this doesn't exist, because we are dismissing so much of what's happened. I wanted to keep younger voices and all ages too, of knowing, yes, these are people who did live this. Are you really going to deny history? Are we really at that stage where people could not know things more and more? Various topics. That's why I'm so fascinated in writing from that perspective of historical fiction, because I consider the children's book historical fiction too, passing on to generations that may never ever see this because it is going to be deep and buried and dead to some generations. Hopefully not, but all we can do is hope that
Well, and
the
a
word will
lot of
get out.
people, Pat, they look at children's book as only for children. But you know what? I guarantee there's at least 80% of adults that are reading children's books in order to understand stories. You know, because we were all children We just grew older, we just aged. But storytelling is for
Mhm.
all ages, you know,
Yes.
and to get a story sometimes across, we have to go to the children's version in order to understand the adult version of why adults are the way they are today, right?
I 100% agree. And you know that my biggest audience for the crystal beads is actually adults. I bring this into, because you can read it within one session. So I can do a discussion and a talk on the topics of how we need to be caring for each other despite our differences. I can read it during one session and we discuss it and we talk about the story. So my biggest audiences are the adults who have really taken this story very much in. As a matter of fact, my husband and I'm down in Florida, and my husband and I drove up to Philadelphia to work with a group called Philly 3G. That's third generation Holocaust survivors, Philly 3G. And I never heard of them before, but we drove all the way up there so I could have the opportunity, to meet them and share this story. And there was a fourth generation survivor there, and there was a survivor there as well. So I had all generations, first, second, third, and fourth generation, in that room while we were talking about the book, and the power of keeping those stories and our history alive. That's the only
So
way we can keep doing it.
I believe that those stories need to stay alive because until we understand history, we're just going to keep repeating history. And it's scary and it's sad, but that's the way life is, right? Until we understand what has actually happened and
Yes,
stop hiding the truth, we're just going to keep repeating it. And we don't want to have
yes.
a second Holocaust happen. We don't want to have more of those painful stories come to the table. So we need to hear the stories that have already happened. Stop putting them into the shadows and stop putting them in the background and saying, well, that didn't really happen. They're overreacting. They're over, you know, we really need to get those stories
Mhm.
out there. What really drew me for the children's book is the name, the crystal beads. So is there like a beads that I need to get this book for my granddaughter. Well, first for
Oh,
grandma, but
thank you.
then
It, it's very interesting how I ended up with, how the title came up. My grandmother, born and raised Roman Catholic, my grandmother had a set of rosary beads, and they were crystal. And I would sneak into her room and open her drawer and just play with these beautiful beads. And I just admire them so much. So when I wanted to tell the story, I wanted to find a way to connect how a little girl, because what happens is the Jewish mother takes the little girl to a convent school to keep her alive. But before she went there, she had to teach the child some games. And one of the games was to give the girl the rosary beads in exchange for a Star of David necklace that the little girl's father gave her before he died. They had to make an exchange because I was looking, how do I explain this? So that happens in the story. She had to stay alive, accept something that she really knew nothing about, but it would keep her alive, and for at least a while put aside her identity because that necklace was her identity.
how
So
come we
we
don't
look at
say,
how that plays out.
Pat, how come we don't see the rosary as much as we used to?
I don't know. I don't know if it is something that might be a part of older generations that is not as popular now. I can, I don't know. I mean, I don't have those beads, sadly, but I have my mother's crystal beads, and they're in my distro. Because I think it's sad, don't you, that there are things that we may have given up or lost or doesn't make it across as much from one generation to another and pass on. And my books are really kind of cover that because especially as I'm aging and we age, what goes with us and what just gets thrown out. And that happens in both in both books, what do we grab? Because we look as youths, we look more towards the future, and we kind of throw away the past. And because new is the future is bright and shiny, but it's not until this age now that I wish I had this for my mom. I wish I asked dad this. I wish I asked grandma this. I wish. But we don't always realize that when we're younger.
Well, and that's where my
So
Oma,
those questions.
yeah, and that's why my Oma gave me the tea, right,
Mhm.
Pat, was because it's the past, the present, and the future. If we try to just get rid of the past, we're actually
Oh,
taking part of our story away from us. You know, the present moment
yes.
is we're here now, but the past was part of us as well. So if we just start tossing all the past out and just the present and just the future, are we actually serving our true selves, or are we serving only half of ourselves?
I agree. And I think I was going to ask you, does your Oma, would she share those stories? Because I know for some people, the pain of what might have happened hurts, and she doesn't want to see that pain passed on. People don't want to see their pain passed on. So sometimes they do hold back because it's hard to talk about. But was she able to share some of that with you?
Yeah, well, she shared a cup of tea, and everyone thinks that tea time is about the beverage, right? It was about the time that we had together, the storytelling that she was able to share without being
Yes.
judged, right? A lot of the family was like, "Oh, just get over it."
Yes.
We lived in that kind of back in those decades. It was, you know what, whatever happens,
Yes.
happens, and get over it, and move on.
Yes.
It's spilled milk. You don't cry about it. But with me, she opened up a lot, and she got me to really look at tea in a different way. I was 4 when she gave me my first
Good.
cup, and she said, and I drank it really fast because I was just a little kid, and she was like, no, 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 and she was, because of the language and the German, it comes off as rough, right? So I always thought I was in trouble when she spoke to me, and I was very sensitive, and I am still very sensitive. So I start, and she's like, no, 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 no crying, no crying, and oh, okay, But she made me look within my cup
Hmm.
to serve the cup, and that's why tea time is what it is today, Pat. And that's why I'm really drawn to real life stories, and getting those out there, because we grew up in a time where we were not heard and not seen, or you can be seen but
Yes.
not heard, or you can be seen and not heard. So it was always the reverse, right? And when she came to Canada,
Yes.
only there was only 2 survivors. The rest all were encampment, and they didn't make it. And she shared that when
Oh.
she came to Canada, her first thing was a cup of tea, without fear.
Oh.
She had a cup of tea, and that's why tea is really
Just a cup of tea.
means a lot to me, right? Uh, and we really got to start getting these stories out like yours, Pat, because we're gonna just keep repeating that history, and it's sad, and it scares a lot of people. Um, you know,
Yeah.
is that what got you into the
Yes.
clinical field? Is your story?
Um, I was doing theater, and I which is a very hard way to make a living, to say the least. And I realized, okay, my son was born, and it's like, we need to have an income coming in here. And I realized I wanted to do something that still explored the inner workings of people, because that's what theater is all about. You're exploring what's going on the inside. So how do I translate this into a profession that could maybe make a full living? And I said, well, I think psychology. So I did a master's first, and then ended up to do a doctorate in it. But it allowed me, and I didn't realize the impact it was going to have on me and how they were connected at that time. I knew I'd be working on the inner workings of people, which I did naturally in theater, but I had no idea that as an author down the line, it was going to all meld together. I grieved when I gave up theater because I felt like I was losing part of my soul. I found another part of my soul. I realized there wasn't just one part; there was more parts in the work that I did, and that was wonderful. But there was still a creative side, and I got creative in psychology. I would do a lot of role play and what's called psychodrama, and I would really make people work, and they joined me in a space that was comfortable, that we could really work with, and sometimes maybe a little uncomfortable, but still caring, you know. And so I put part of me, part of that theater came with me, but it wasn't until I semi-retired and just had a small little practice that I immediately pulled the artistic side, but this time as the writer as opposed to the director and playwright, but as a short story writer, which led to the books and the novels. And they just sort of merged together, which I didn't realize was going to happen. So I had no idea that they actually fit together, but they do.
Well, see that, and that's what I mean. Like everything connects the dots, right? As a little
Yep,
girl,
yep.
then the movies, then the
Hmm.
writing, then the work, the career. You know, it all aligns together. It's all those dots connecting, and then you're like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. So,
Yeah.
Pat, we have a couple more questions on the book, so I want to get those out. How did your work as a clinical psychologist influence the emotional depth of your character?
Because I guess I work with my characters in the same way that I work with my clients. I push them softly and gently. I nudge and I say, okay, you have a conflict. Let's work through what you're going to do to move through this. Or are you at the stage where you can work through things? Are you pre-contemplative? Are you not there yet, but want to work your way there? But can you slowly see growth and change? Can you accept that something's not working for you and you want to leap off that bridge and figure out what it is and work on it? And I did the same thing with the characters. I put every one of them in a situation that's difficult, and I see, oh my, some how they handle it. Can they handle it? Some do, some don't. And I build an arc for each of them. So they start out here, and some are going to might go like this, or some might go like this. Some might go, and it's what people are like. We're all at different stages in our life. So I had to consider the stages each character was in. Like when I meet a client for the first time, what stage you in terms of being ready to grow, and can we start nudging and moving at a pace that you're comfortable with? I don't push or shove, maybe a little tap, and we just can we explore? Are you willing to take a risk?
Well,
So
that's
that
the
and
thing,
that's what I
right?
say to the characters. Yeah,
That's the thing. Are you ready to
exactly,
take the risk to
exactly.
heal, to share, to open, to
Hmm.
look? And you know,
Yep,
healing is uncomfortable. If anybody says healing is comfortable, they're not at the right place. you know, uh,
exactly.
there's a lot of people that say, you know what, I got a 30-day fix and I can fix you and I can heal you. Those are the people I run from because I'm just like,
Uh,
I've lived through life experience and 30 days is not going to fix what I've been through.
Nope. It's a lifetime worth of work. It really is. You can't just make a change doesn't happen that quickly. Subtle things might happen bit by bit, but in reality, it takes a long time because you're taking everything that that brain is used to and you're going to go back to that default position very quickly. Because that's what we know. You have to learn to move that position, move it slowly, shift the way you think and how you act bit by bit so that change can happen gradual and then that becomes the comfort zone more so than that other part because it's the devil you know is always easier to deal with than the devil you don't know. That risk is frightening.
Right? It's taking that leap. Well, it's like you said, little taps. We only do taps. We don't do pushes.
Exactly,
Or maybe a
exactly.
little push once in a while. You know, we
A little bit,
all need
right?
that
Yeah,
push in life.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so the next question I have for you, Pat, is can you share what makes the book resonate with readers across generations?
I think both books, in that sense, allows people to because basically the emotions of both book, the what happens, the storylines in both books of growth, loss, transformation, assuming that can happen, family, connectedness are all emotions, and the generation, the time doesn't necessarily matter because those are all human feelings we all experience, regardless of what generation it's in. We may handle something a little differently, you know, we may wear different clothes. The music we listen to is going to be a little bit different, but everything else is human nature and what we go through. And for the all the broken angels, it's really interesting because I hear younger people, they might say to me, I would have never considered reading this because it's the 60s, heck, is interested in stuff like that. But when I did, it's like, wow, you mean this really happened? There was a draft lottery? You mean women couldn't do this and women couldn't do that? Women only had certain jobs they could do? What do you mean you couldn't do this? What do you And they were like shocked to learn about it. And I would have some people say to me, I want to study this now. I want to read more about this. And the same thing with the story of the Holocaust. Oh, come on. Really? Kids were hidden? How? It's that ability to try to take in reading something that you might not necessarily want to read or have read before, and saying, all right, we all experience what's going on here. Embrace it, regardless of what it was. I was not a history reader before. I never read books related to history until I started writing these two. So I'm as guilty as everyone else in just saying that it just didn't interest me. And then I had a chance to start writing them, and I realized, oh my God, there's a whole world, and I want to learn. So talk about, if I want to learn, because everything does repeat itself. It is really incredible how that does happen. There are so many lessons we can pick up if we can embrace the past enough, learn about it, read it, and take a look. That was there. How can we do this differently this time? Otherwise, we're repeating that same, like you said, repeat the same stuff over and over and over with no growth. If it's already been done, why not take advantage of learning from it?
Exactly, right? Learn from it. It's not that hard. Yeah. Learn from it.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's so simple, but yet we make it so complicated. Learn from the history so we don't repeat the history. It's so
we're
simple.
given a gift that we tend not to open.
It's right in front of us, but we're scared. We turn a blind eye to it, right?
Yep, exactly. And I've been reading more and more work from different eras and different decades, and just opening my eyes into so many different things that have happened that I've just didn't bother touching before. So it was a big lesson for me too.
Well, well, and I'm sure, Pat, when you were writing your book, you were doing the research and looking back and hearing the stories and saying, wow, there's so many that resonate, that there's so many that are similar. Why are we not getting these stories out there? Why are we hiding it? My Oma always told me I was tired of hiding. I was tired of covering up what they did to mom and dad. She would tell me about my Gosi Oma and all that. And it would be just sad because she said, I wish you would have got to know them because they were incredible people. And I think by having your children's books and the broken, all the broken angels, you're getting those stories out. You're getting the stories out, that the ones that are still hiding, the ones that are still fearful to share their stories, because they are a lot of survivors that are fearful to share their stories because they have that fear in them, right? Yes. That if they speak, they're going to get hurt, Yes. And we're in 2025, and there are survivors out there that are still scared to share.
Oh, yes. Yeah. There's fear, but it also, the triggers that it brings up for them. Can they survive if they open up this box? One of my clients, a Vietnam veteran, said, I have a metal box, and it's in his heart, it's inside, and it's locked, and no one knows what's in here. And I was the first person he told anything to, because it was so frightening. Because what would his wife think if there were things that he did that he had to do, but he didn't want to do? What would people think of him if he told some of this? What would people, say? How would they? I'm a bad person, or this. So there's that fear of, if I open up, what does that say about me? And you have to slowly unlock that box bit by bit and find someone you can trust to start sharing little bits of it with.
Well, it's the storytelling, right? And that leads right into this question. As an award winning author and speaker, how do you see fiction as a tool for healing and understanding?
Because I think that there's the lessons and the way the writing and the way to write it, for me is that it's you're not preachy. I don't go about things being preachy. I use a lot of humor. I use a
I
lot
like
of
that,
different
right? Dark
tools
humor.
to
We
make
need dark
lessons come
humor.
across. Yeah, yeah, dark humor and humor, because life also has the funny parts, and you can learn some things that happen to that through laughing through it, or whatever. You can find different ways to learn. So you write the lessons into the book in the way that really just moves the character from one situation to another, and it's like, oh, that's me. Oh, that's me. Oh my gosh, I've lived just through that. I know exactly what they're talking about. So it doesn't have to be a real story. It can be based on something, but it's fiction just serves that same person. Any way that you can learn, it's easier than a textbook, though, to try to describe this is what happened during this time, because you fit yourself, you find the characters in there that you connect to, and then you travel that journey, you watch their journey, and maybe you can learn something from their journey and the lessons that some of the other characters might be giving them.
So,
So fiction definitely allows that.
so what challenges did you have writing about a pivotal and emotional era in history?
um I'll go to the Broken Angels, because it was my era at the same time. And it was, I was not as tuned in back then as Kate was in that book. Um, and it really hurt me that I wasn't as present and I didn't have as much of a voice back then, that I couldn't have done more or been more a part of that change back then. So that was a tough one, I think. For the crystal beads, being able to tell the crystal beads is told through the eyes of a 7-year-old child. Okay. How do I safely, carefully, protectively tell a story about a trauma that will still protect the reader? Might feel a little level of discomfort, but not too much. And the rabbi that I spoke to through that, he just says with grace and subtlety and the language, it conveys the message without like necessarily traumatizing the reader. But I had to step into the child when she was confronted with basically being attacked. It was almost like this is life and death. What you say right now could keep you alive or could kill you. How do I put those words into a child's mouth? How do I have her say it? And how do I protect the readers while reading it? So it's a fine, fine, fine line. I think I did it because no one at all, I mean, they definitely feel the emotion, but they're not threatened by it or thrown off or traumatized in that way because of the subtlety used. And that's not easy. That's not easy. With all the broken angels, there was a time where I hit, because it's more of an adult, I hit some stuff hard. I want, I want to, there's an impact here. Some things happen, this is going to hit you. You're going to feel, not shock value feel, real feel. I didn't write it as a shock value for this to happen, that to happen, to feel it. Here's what's going to happen. This happen, you experiencing this. This is what you could be feeling. So handling that for different age groups, that was tough. It was very tough.
Well, then it kind of goes into your tea, because I asked you what your tea was, and you gave me seeker of truth, right? And truth hurts, you
Oh,
know.
That's right. I did, didn't
So
I?
let's get
Yes,
into that
yes.
secret of truth,
Yeah.
because I want to get into your tea and understand your tea a
Ah,
little bit, Pat. So
okay.
the secret of truth, share a little bit about that.
Yeah, and actually, that's where the next novel is sort of going, which is going to take place in the 70s too. It's trying to find that voice in you that for some reasons might keep you quiet, that you can't speak up. And what does that do to you when you have stuff that's hidden that you can't talk about and have to live with? And you have to find a way to survive. Um, so I think there's part of it in that, and part of the secret of truth is when you are researching information for a book, you delve and then you have to find what is true. In today's world, where do you, how to look and where to find it, how to trust it, where can you go, what is a source, which I don't think as much in the past. We might have to some degree in the past, but I don't think as much in the past. We had to say, okay, I have to weigh this against this. I have to weigh this against whatever. So seeking the real truth, um, where and how do I find that? How many sources am I looking for to obtain that information? How far do I have to dig? And am I comfortable with then saying, this is what I believe? And people can refute it. That's their choice. They can just say no. But so
So
it's a couple of ways. It's the internal truth and and it is the external research and history.
so Pat, did I catch right that this is a new book that's coming out?
Oh, it's got a way to go. But it is going to cover again the voice. Yes, it's going to take a while. It's going to take quite some time. But it's that idea of following through on that message even more so, because it's a woman who really cannot speak and is holding in a lot. And it's impacting her. And a few different people in the book have their secrets. Um, and one of them happens to be a Holocaust survivor in that one too. So veterans, other people, a variety of different people who are all have truths that they're trying to figure out how to speak up within the time frame that they existed.
Well, it kind of goes right back to the first question we started the show with, right? Is who you were as a little girl. You felt seen but not heard, and then now we're going into
Hmm.
finding the voice of that little girl
Yes,
who was not
yes,
heard. You see
yes.
the dots, the past, the present, and the future
Yeah, you
all
just
connect
connected.
together, right? Uh,
Exactly,
and
exactly.
yeah, the other part of your tea that you gave me was sharing life lessons, is what you're doing through your books and your writing, as well as you're sharing your life stories by creating characters. But then, like you said, Kate is you and Albie is your cousin. So you're sharing the life lessons through
Mhm.
storytelling. Um, and then the other tea that you gave me was per, perpetuate life students. Am I saying that word right? No.
Or perpetual life student. Okay, yeah, perpetual life student. If I couldn't type it in wrong.
My tongue just doesn't
Um,
roll that way.
Oh no, that's okay. Listen, when it comes to editing, do not. I mean, if I can even get one post put up that is spelled correctly, I usually have a friend Holly that comes in and she's, Pat, you spelled that wrong. I gotta go fix something again. It's a life learner. It's a constant student. It's a constant learner. We don't stop when we get older. People could. They just said, okay, fine, I'm settled in. But there's always something to learn in so many different topics and so many different areas. And so it's that continuing learning. I mean, I didn't get my doctorate until I was in my 50s. I think I had a master's and I worked under that, but I think it was, yeah, mid 50s, I think, by the time I got the doctorate. And part of me would say, well, go back to school. What do you want to study next? What do you want to learn about next? So it's that learner. It's that keep the doors open to always learning more information.
I really thought that your tea was interesting because I was just like, oh, she started with the past at the bottom, went into the middle and and then the future's on the top. Oh, okay. And this is why I asked this question. My Oma taught me how to get people to kind of share the past, the present, and the future through a tea, you know, And that's what I seen was the seeker of truth. As a little girl, you were seeking the truth. You were seeking why this was happening to you, and then you went into the middle, perpetuate life students was in the present. In the present, you're working with the fields and stuff like that. So you're working with the survivors and stuff like that as well. So you're educating yourself, right? And then
Yes.
sharing the life lessons is the future that
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
life lessons have to keep being learned. Like we have to learn so we don't repeat.
Yes.
I just love how you started from the past at the bottom, and then so yeah,
I
that's
didn't
why I
even think
asked
of
that
it.
question. I just like to get to know people through words, because that's what my Oma did with me, was through words.
I love it, and I love those questions. And the perpetual life student is, yeah, it's the idea. And it was funny because I was thinking of how to answer, and it was like it pops out of you. It's like, yeah, it's about the learning, it's about learning and the passing on from generation to generation. So
Well,
those are
it's
fascinating
spilling the
questions. I'm like,
tea,
yeah,
right? It's really spilling life tea.
yeah,
This is what we
yeah,
do on Tea Time, is we spill real life tea. Uh, so
yeah,
Pat,
yeah.
if you could describe your books, we'll start with the child book first, Crystals, Beads. Give me one word to describe that book.
I want to say hope because it's a story of hope. Um, there's a lot more, but it's that part that just says life goes on. There's I'll just answer one other part of that is the fact that there's a part in there where the mother turns the child over to the nun to take care of her, and the sister, the mother says to the sister, I'm putting you at risk by doing this. And she says, I trust that what's inside us is more good than, I forgot the wording right now, but what's inside is much more than who we are and what we are. I forgot the wording at the moment, but it's the idea that I trust that we are more alike than we are different. So that message is the message of hope, that we will take risks sometimes to protect each other because we are more similar, if we would allow ourselves to be, than we are different. Hard lesson to accept in today's day and age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one word for all the broken angels.
Resilience.
Do you want to share why?
Yeah. Everyone has gone through some difficulty in that book, and they had to find their own ways of survival in that, from a little girl who has polio to a trauma within the family to a family living through pain, through friends who have gone through some tough times, through the veterans who are wounded. And the title, All the Broken Angels, just really shows all of those people who have had to survive these difficult times and come and find their way to make it through. From the grandmother who came to the country, as a kid on her own with no money, and had to figure out how to survive, to each generation had to find their way to be resilient with the resources they had. And through
It's
Kate finding her voice, because she had no voice through the book. She had no voice, and because she kept getting shut down all the time when she was trying to have a voice as a kid. So it took her to get to the end and tragedy to happen that could have pulled her away from having any voice, and close shut down even more, to going the opposite way, and
you know,
finding her where her journey goes.
I think it's really interesting that you gave me the word resilient when I asked you to describe yourself in one word, and you gave me the word resilient. Uh, so that tells the reader a little bit more about your story as well. It
Hmm.
all aligns
Hmm.
together. So, what message would you like the readers to take away from your books, Pat?
Think about taking in the lessons of the book. It doesn't matter what the genre is. The lessons are there for everyone of all ages. And don't just think I'm stepping into a book that's about history. I'm stepping into books about people who have real emotions, real feelings, real ways of coping in the world. That and the issues are the same back then in both sides of the books as we're dealing with right now. Hopefully you can find characters in there that resonate to you, that you can take life lessons from and embrace them, um, and move forward with your journey to the lessons in there.
And what message would you have for all the listeners today?
I think that the same trust yourself that when you are dealing with things that may be obstacles in your way, and which is what I also tell clients, trust that you have more strength than you give yourself credit for. Push yourself a little bit, tap yourself, and give a little nudge, and trust that you can accomplish more than you can imagine. But you have to have the faith that allows you to move forward, and do it. You might take 10 steps backwards, but you could take like 5 more forward, and you might go back and forth a few times. You can do it. You can do what you'll surprise yourself.
And Pat, if anybody wanted to reach out to you to have them as a guest on their podcast or to reach out to you for books or any upcoming books or things that you have coming up, how could they reach out to you?
The My website, patblackgold.com. You can also reach me on, you can leave a message on the website, on Amazon, on Instagram, and I'm on Facebook under my name. You'll see all of that as well. I'm on LinkedIn. So there's a number of resources. My email, which is ridiculously long, and why I did it, I don't know, patblackgold@patblackgold.com. Why I did that, I don't know. But the website usually I can get messages right away quickly, but do reach out. I'd love to talk. I'd love to share more with you.
And do you have any upcoming books that we should be looking out for?
It is not there yet. It is going to be there in a while. It's actually called, and I've got a title that I really love, which is A Quiet Kind of Loud, which is really about, really about fits it, because sometimes we're holding things in, but we don't have to be loud and shouting it. We're holding things in, but we can still progress and find our voice, and which is what the person has to do in this book. So a lot of my stuff is really about finding that voice, finding your strength, finding your courage.
Well, I
And
think it
sometimes you're
would.
pushed into being forced to have it. I'm sorry.
I think it's really important for us to get our voices heard and seen, and I really enjoyed having you on Tea Time today and sharing this and getting those stories out there. I'm going to grab that little children's book there for myself first and then for my granddaughter. Um, but I just want to thank you for opening up and sharing your journey, your story, and your tea with all of us today. Um, I just want to do a little close up before we close up, and then we'll be back at 7 p.m. with Valerie Holden, and she'll be sharing her story and her tea with Miss Liz tonight. As we close this tea time, we we reflect on a powerful conversation with Pat Blackmore, whose compassion, expertise, and talent illuminates every corner of her storytelling. All the Broken Angels is more than a novel. It is a heartfelt exploration of a generation forever changed by love, loss, and war, and an unforgettable reminder of resilience of the human spirit. Pat's work continues to inspire, reminding us of the importance of empathy, understanding, and finding healing through stories that speak to the soul. So I want to thank you, Pat, again for joining me on Tea and sharing your story. And for all of you that are listening out there, thank you for joining me on Tea Time. I see you guys on Instagram and YouTube and LinkedIn. Thank you for that. Thank you for Facebook Lives. If this story resonates with you, please share it. And if you know of somebody who might need to hear this story or this Tea Time, share those to the ones that need it as well. Again, thank you for joining me on Tea Time. We will be back at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, yesterday at I believe 9 p.m. I released September's lineup, so check that out. Check out all of those incredible 18 guests that will be coming in September. And again, thank you, Pat, for joining me today on Tea Time. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I hope that this is just the beginning of our journey together.
I do too. I thank you so very much. It was a wonderful time together.